Resolution of appreciation, whereas Rebecca Gentry has served the people of Person County during her tenure working for the Person County Tax Office as a tax collection supervisor, and whereas Rebecca Gentry has served the citizens of Person County with honor, integrity, sincerity, and dedication, providing accurate, concise service for 25 years, November 94 through March 19. Whereas Rebecca Gentry has earned the respect and admiration all who have known her and worked with her throughout her career, and whereas the County of Person recognizes the many contributions Rebecca Gentry has made to the county and offers her sincere best wishes for her retirement. Now therefore, I, David Newell Sr., Chairman, Person County Board of Commissioners, do hereby extend this resolution of appreciation to Rebecca Gentry for continually striving to make Roxborough and Person County a better place to live. Adopted this 20th day of May, 2019.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I'm gonna miss you.
Make a speech if you want to.
No, I probably would say too much.
All right. We have any informal comment?
No, sir, none is on it.
All right. Has everybody had a chance to look at the consent agenda?
Move for approval.
Any discussion? None. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Mr. Dale Norris, if you would come forward and plead your case.
Thank y'all for having me. The North Carolina Association of ABC Boards would appreciate y'all's support of our current ABC system. In the abstract, I wanted y'all to know what Person County might stand to lose if privatization was successful. Last fiscal year, we gave you guys $343,000 in profits that goes into your general fund, and 30% goes to the city of Roxborough. And we spent approximately $31,000 on alcohol, drug, and education rehabilitation. And we also contract with the Sheriff's Department for $28,000 annually. So I recommend you guys, and my board recommend y'all sign this resolution in support of our system. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Dale? All right, now, what is it you want us to do?
Well, we have a resolution here from the Association of ABC Boards. Right here.
That's in your packet.
All these whereases.
Mm-hmm.
It pretty much spells out the benefits of our system for the state. At the state level, the ABC boards distributed $430 million to the state general fund and to $80 million to break that down to $80 million to the local counties and municipalities, $13 million for education and treatment, $8.8 million for local law enforcement, and $5 million for additional for rehabilitation. So, there, House Bill 971 has been introduced, recommending privatization of our system, and I think our society would lose in that because there would be so many more outlets. Currently, we have 423 outlets in North Carolina, but the bill says we can have as many as 1,400. And a private business owner might be tempted to, he would be profit driven, where we have no incentive for profit other. We want to be profitable, but we want to maintain control of this spirituous liquor. So,
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the resolution.
Okay, any discussion?
I'll ask that if approved, we send it to our state representatives.
absolutely. I'll be talking with Mr. Yarborough and Mr. Woodard, should it get to the Senate.
All right, we got a motion to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. All right, Ms. York, if you would,
Want to lead us in the budget?
yes.
Be glad to. Good morning, Commissioners. I am
morning.
presenting to you your fiscal year 1920 recommended budget this morning, and have a PowerPoint presentation to go through highlighting that budget for you. The slides? I guess not. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and pass out the budget document and the actual slides so that you can follow along.
I'm gonna use orange.
He's gonna use red,
Thingy.
yellow, and green.
I'm gonna use green for gold.
Can't wait to see all that green. Okay, we'll get started if everybody is ready. So your fiscal year 1920 recommended budget can best be summarized as a year of preparation leading us to success. We're setting the stage for achieving Person County's strategic goals, which you'll hear more about as we move through this presentation. We're investing in education, economic development, and in public safety, believing that these investments will yield high returns for improving the quality of life for all of our residents and fostering a prosperous community. Next year's general fund is proposed at $64 million, which represents a 5% increase over your current fiscal year 18-19 general fund. As you know, the general fund provides for services that are funded through your property taxes. When all other funds are combined with the general fund, including E911, stormwater, the MRF and recycling center, when all of those are combined, we have a all funds balance of $70 million, which represents about a 4% increase overall from your current year. And 1 penny on the property tax rate for next year is going to yield you $447,956. And when I compare this with what 1 penny generates for you in your current year, it's only a difference of about $1,800, which is definitely minimal growth in terms of that. At your board retreat back in February, the board articulated that there were 3 equal priorities that you all believe will yield a prosperous community. And as you know, budgets are one of the best tools that you have as a board to communicate your priorities with our community. These 3 priorities require additional funding in order to make progress and enhance the quality of life for our residents. So while there are increases in this budget, there are also enhancements for our community, such as better funded volunteer fire departments, a stronger educational system, and better economic development tools. For the first time in over 10 years, the majority of the board did not express a desire to remain stagnant on the tax rate. This means that we're able to impact positive change by increasing spending in the board's priority areas. For many years, Person County government spending has not kept pace with the inflationary rate. Cuts were made, and this strategy kept the tax rate flat for 12 years, but we knew that would be unsustainable. A 2-cent property tax increase begins the incremental process of right-sizing your revenues and your expenditures to advance the board's goals. So the property tax rate is proposed to go from 70 cents per $100 of value to 72 cents, with a collection rate remaining at 97.5%, which we had adjusted in your current fiscal year. This will generate $896,000 of new revenue, which matches the increase that will go to Person County Schools in this proposed budget. The board had, in the current year, already laid the groundwork for the creation of a fire tax to increase your funding to the volunteer fire departments and to also alleviate some of the burden on the general fund for volunteer fire departments. So for fiscal year 20, the full funding for the volunteer fire departments has moved from the general fund to a separate fire tax rate for all of their funding. The fire tax rate then would be increasing to 2.75 cents, which is a 1.75 cent increase. And moving this into a single fund not only provides transparency, but it also helps us reflect the true value of the volunteer fire departments. And I'll remind you, with the fire tax, that only county residents, not those living in the city, would pay the fire tax. The adjustment of 1.75 cent increase will generate an overall funding of just over $1 million to your volunteer fire departments. And built into the contract for the upcoming year was a 2% increase. So that is included with this recommended funding level as well. So that generates an additional $20,000 to go to the VFDs this coming year. This is just a quick bar graph to show you what your tax base is looking like, but the story here really is that the property tax base remained completely flat from your current year to the upcoming fiscal year at $4.21 billion. We had about $19 million in growth, and that was attributed to your DMV taxes, not the actual property taxes. So it's hard to sustain spending without an adjustment to this property tax rate along the way. I said that the budget increases the funding for education, invests in economic development, and it puts additional value on our public safety employees while also keeping county government lean. For education, we have an additional $1 million appropriated that will go for the combined current expense for PCC and Person County Schools. Economic development projects such as an executive hangar at the airport and the implementation of your fiber project adds an additional $2.6 million to the budget over current year. And in public safety, there's an increase of $601,000 total combined for personnel and the volunteer fire departments. So on the revenue side, your $3 million increase in the general fund is hitting in these areas as your top increases. The 2-cent tax increase I mentioned will generate an increase of $896,000. We are projecting a good yield on our interest earnings next year. I mentioned the DMV growth. And then sales tax is also projected to increase next year, but only slightly, 2%, which is lower than what we've seen in many of our other years. Some of the major decreases in revenues include the loss of revenue for the home health hospice program that we eliminated in the current year, and Person Industries for a $298,000 loss due to smaller contracts with Eaton, although we're hoping that those might pick up throughout the year. With the both the health and the Person Industries decreases, you'll see also a decrease on the expenditure side for those as well. So moving to expenditures, there's a matching $3 million increase in the general fund, with the largest increase being attributed to your capital improvement plan. You adopted that earlier this year, and that allocates an additional $2.6 million over your current year. I also have a large increase in DSS, and there are only 2 new full-time equivalent positions in this budget. Both of them are slated for the Social Services Department. EMS has an increase also due to personnel with overtime and part-time. And then the sheriff, his budget is also increasing primarily in personnel. Planning is seeing an increase. This is related to the comprehensive land use plan that we talked about at the retreat, and includes the city of Roxborough in a partnership for that plan. And then finally, another large increase is in the reappraisal fund, which we are gearing up for your reappraisal slated for 2021. The major decreases that you'll see on the expenditure side, as I mentioned, the health department, excuse me, with the loss of the home health and hospice program, you are seeing about a 22% reduction in spending in the health department. And we also have a reduction in debt service with some of your ambulance lease payments coming off of that. This is your pie chart, which is showing how your money is being spent. The largest chunk, of course, is in public safety, but closely followed by human services and education. We actually have about a 2% decrease in human services spending in this upcoming budget. All right, moving on to your fund balance, which is essentially the county's savings account. As you know, this should be used for one-time expenses rather than recurring operational costs. In next year's budget, there's an appropriation of $4.9 million, which is a large chunk, and we've talked about why that makes sense to do that this year. This is $2.3 million more than what you are appropriating in your current year budget. All the fund balance that is proposed next year is for just those one-time costs, and it's primarily the funding source for your capital improvement plan, with 4.7 of that 4.9 million going to capital projects in your CIP. The increase in the appropriation is coming from the report that we received in February of the audit, where we saw that your fund balance was trending upwards and you were gaining some increases there. And then, of course, your CIP projects, which we had prioritized as a spending need this year. The volunteer fire departments, just wanted to cover that in one quick slide. As I mentioned, all the funding is generated through the fire tax next year rather than the general fund. Your fire tax is set at a total of 2.75 cents, which does represent an increase of 1.75 cents. And this also includes that 2% increase per their contract, for a total of $1.02 million appropriated next year for VFDs. On the county workforce funding, which is a large portion of our services and expenses, we are recommending that merit pay would continue, and the cost of that is actually slightly lower next year than your current year at $183,000. This would represent your 7th year of implementing a pay-for-performance program. I've also recommended the first year of implementation for the compression study on employee pay that we've spent a couple of meetings discussing. What I've done in this recommendation is to implement a 3-year, or to recommend a 3-year implementation plan on the compression study. So this $216,000 represents what your public safety employees would receive in year 1. And then the employee health insurance continues to see some increases year to year. Right now we're projecting $705 per month per employee. This is about $8,800 that we spend per employee per year. This represents a 9.5% increase over your current insurance expenses, for a total cost to the county of $3.5 million to provide those benefits to our full-time employees. For our educational partners, this year I am recommending an increase in the current expense for Person County Schools. They requested in their current expense a 16% increase. I've recommended a 9.4% increase, and again, that amount is the same amount as what 2 cents on your property tax would generate next year. Your capital funded recommendation, this is the operating capital, so these projects did not meet the threshold for the capital improvement plan, but is current expense capital, if you want to think of it that way. is $352,000, and then I have fully funded all of their technology requests next year at $204,000. And there's the chart that gives you all the funding sources that you have control over in this budget, and their overall funding is over $12 million. I wanted to show you what the enrollment is looking like for the traditional public schools as well as the charter schools here. This shows you from fiscal year 14 through your projected fiscal year 20. The ADM is average daily membership and is the measure of enrollment that the state uses to count the number of students in school. So our charter school enrollment has remained steady at 1,100, while the traditional school enrollment has declined by about 400 students over the years. And while this chart looks complicated, I'll try to explain it to you so you can see what you're looking at. The teal bar chart is showing you what the current expense dollars have, what those amounts have been allocated from fiscal year 14 to next projected fiscal year 20 next year. And you can see that the red line represents enrollment at Person County schools. And then the green line is representing your total enrollment, which is including charter schools as well as Person County traditional schools. And this is all Person County students in the green line. So even those that are attending charter schools outside of our community are counted in our ADM expenses. So you can see that there's been a consistent decline of enrollment, but the ADM, actually the ADM decline is about 5% from fiscal year 14 to 20. And your current expense, the teal bars, are showing that your current expense increase is 16% from 14 to 20. And we often get asked about how our teacher supplements are comparing with our neighboring communities. So I wanted to update you on that. There is a request in their current expense for personnel. So we anticipate that our teacher supplement could go up next year, but this is just showing what it is currently in fiscal year 19. And Person County is ranked as the 11th highest supplement in the state out of 115 school systems, so putting us in about the 96th percentile. We represent the green line there for Person County in teacher supplements. You can obviously see that Wake County is not a regional benchmark that we could compete to, as they are leading the state by quite a bit ahead. Okay, so moving on to our other educational partner with the community college. Their current expense is also recommended to receive an increase. They requested a 33% increase in their current expense, and I am recommending also a 9% increase for them, as I am for the traditional schools. So that would allocate an additional, that would give them $1.3 million on their recommended current expense. The capital funded is $25,000, and their total funding then would be about $1.8 million when you take into account all of the sources of revenue that they would receive from the county. And I did a matching chart just to kind of look at what their enrollment was looking like versus their current expense. And their enrollment has increased by about 7% over this 4-year period. Their current expense has increased by 17% over this 4-year period. I have this slide in here as other requests, sort of as a placeholder for us to come back to during our work sessions. But these are some requests that we are aware of, that we have received, but are not included in this budget proposal. There's a request from the city to participate in fireworks, for the chamber to participate in Personality Festival, a beaver management program, which we get a lot of calls about, has a request in there for $4,000. Commissioner Clayton has requested that we consider making an annual appropriation to the Water and Sewer Fund, and I do not have that recommended in here. We received a request to participate in a National Guard museum, and then during your strategic plan, you wanted to proceed on the feasibility study with the YMCA, so that would require an appropriation of $24,000 if we wanted to move that forward as well. Your next steps in the budget process, of course, you're required to hold a public hearing by general statute, and that's slated for June 3rd. As has been your direction in the past, our work sessions are scheduled to begin after that public hearing has been held, so you can take into account public comment as you work through this process. And so we have 3 work sessions proposed. We're flexible on those, but we had pulled your calendars during our briefings to see if these dates would work. It's possible that we might not need 3, but I wanted to go ahead and try to schedule those. Commissioners, you have much to consider as you move forward from a recommended budget to an adopted budget that reflects your priorities and the needs of our community. I'm looking forward to working with all 5 of you through this important process. For more information on the budget, our citizens can find that online on our website. We have the message, this presentation, and the actual budget document. We also provide copies at the library and over here in the clerk's office. And folks are also free to contact me with questions. I wanted to thank the incredible team that we have in place. A lot of work goes into a very complex process of putting together a thoughtful budget for your consideration. From all of our staff and our department heads, and then particularly Sybil, Amy, and Laura, who put more hours into this process than any of us would care to admit. So thank you all for your work on this budget. And Commissioners, thank you for your thoughtful process and helping give us guidance in terms of what to propose next year. And that's all.
All right. Anybody got anything they want to, any suggestions, comments?
Question on the pie chart.
Yep.
The human services 21.7%, that shows the federal and state, that shows
That's
all
just-
their funding, not just local, is that correct?
That's correct.
And this 19.3 for education is just showing the local funding.
It's everything that we appropriate is in that.
Includes sources, I think, from debt service, not debt service, I'm sorry.
The sales tax, the
Okay.
2 articles of sales tax are also included. So that pie chart is the holistic funding that is going
All
into those.
aspects.
Yes.
Gotcha.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, the June 5th work session is scheduled 2 o'clock. I know we said that could be flexible. Can that
Yes.
be moved to a 6 o'clock? Because we may not need the temps.
Make a motion, we'll do it.
You may not need the flip. You don't know. You don't know.
If it's with the desire of the board to move the work session for June 5th from 2 o'clock to 6 p.m.
All right. Anybody got any problem with that? All right, 6 o'clock it'll be. Anything else anybody want to comment on?
Give me the number that 1 penny generates on the fire tax.
I don't have that off the top of my
I know
head.
you
Do
can
either
tell
of
me
you?
later. I don't.
I'll send that to you. Yeah, can't remember, but I'll get that. And if there are particular topics that you'll want to cover at certain work sessions, I'll put together with your input an agenda for each of those, so we can make sure to have the right staff and department directors available to answer questions.
Okay. All right. Next item, chairman's report. I don't have anything. Manager, you got anything you want to
I
add?
don't think so.
Any commissioners got
I think I
anything they
did,
want
but
to
I
talk
can't
about?
remember what it was.
If not, I need a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
All right, closed session to enter, to establish, let's see. Staff required County Manager Heidi York, Brenda Reeves, Ron Aycock, Sybil Tate, Chris Guston, Upper Piedmont Operation Manager, Wade Bailey. Matt Easman and Kelly Horn. Is anybody else that I need to include in that?
We also have Shane
The attorney.
Did I miss him?
Yeah, there are two missing from that.
Okay.
Shane Walker.
Shane
Shane
Walker
Walker?
and Steve Weber.
And Steve Weber, okay. All right, have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right, we are in closed session.